evening, ladies and gentlemen. The topic today is of relevance, importance to each one of us and to our next generation and to the generation thereafter. And I say it with a lot of, I would say, confidence, because India's next generation, the youth, 600 billion plus, is going to be the driving force. And having said that, the vision of Make in India, which our Honorable Prime Minister took out on 25th September 2014, has the following aims. I'll take 2 minutes and then I'll pass it on to the panel. It is for facilitating the investment, it's to foster innovation, it's to enhance the skill development, it's to protect the intellectual property, and it is to build the best-in-class manufacturing infrastructure in our country. Having said that, the objectives of the Make in India, the main objective of the ease of doing business is to first develop India, and it's not the FDI, it's first develop India. And how do you develop India? You develop it through your force, which is your workforce, which is the 600 plus workforce that we are looking at, which is going to be under the demographic of 35 in the coming years. Having said that, and make it FDI, make in India, make for India, and make for the rest of the world. So that's the objective. The wish list, somebody said, what is a wish list if I want to do business in India? It's threefold. E is to start business, E is to run the business, and E is to close the business, which are also the potential problem areas where we see. The reality of today, we all know how India is coming up in the ranking of 130. The theme of today's topic is 50 by 2017. What are the opportunities available and how we all can transform it together. Having said that, the World Bank has a 10 index parameter on which it ranks countries. And why I'm sharing it with all of you is I've got the nutshell of it for the benefit of all of you. It is starting a business, it's dealing with construction permits, getting electricity, availability of land and registering property, getting credit, protecting minority investors, paying taxes, trading across borders, enforcing contract, resolving insolvency. We have also added labor reforms to the list, ever-growing list, and that's how we want to do it. We all try to criticize the government. My idea is very clear. There is no question of criticizing. We are part of the government. We, the people of India, as per our constitution, are part of the government. We all have to come out with solutions in our own way. And 1 plus 1 doesn't make 2, it makes 11. So what can we do? Government has already taken steps towards infrastructure, power, electricity, labor reforms, Companies Act, sanitation, digital, environmental clearances, banking, taxes, etc. A lot of areas still for improvement. Land acquisition, uniform taxation, enforcing contracts, resolving insolvency. The benefit of this rich and diverse panel, I couldn't have asked for anything better. So without much ado, I give it to Badrinath ji. He is the head of L&T. Sir, your views, please. Would you like to come here?
Good afternoon, everybody, ladies and gentlemen. And to my better half, who has come for the first time to any such conference, Ms. Amrita. She has come all the way from Bombay to see as to what I do it here. So maybe at the end of the day, either I'll have a thrashing or maybe I'll have a bashing. But I don't have anything better. Okay, on this, on this wonderful day of the National Constitution, have a seat, sir? Today being the Constitution Day and the National Law Day, I am speaking as a citizen. As a citizen, I have a freedom to speak. And I am a citizen of this country. And I am sure that all of you echo your sentiments with me. We are not come here in our capacities as head of the DLF, Dr. Sanjeev, or anybody, or Jayashree representing a firm, etc. We are all basically the citizens. When we come here and sit as citizens, obviously there is a lot of expectation about the country in which we live in. So today, if at all I am speaking anything about it, it is from the passion or it is from the emotion which I am talking about this country. The theme is that India is in top 50 by the 2017 and how to achieve the success. Yes, this has been a dream of all of us. But where are we? Are we not dreaming from the year 1947? We have been dreaming about making India big. Gone by are the 1947s, gone by are the 5-year plans, gone by are the several other initiatives that have come. Now we reached a stage where we are talking about the Make in India. Fine, every point of time we need to have something. But is this a vision statement? Like when you go home, you tell your child, look, you need to score 90%, otherwise I will not spare you. If you score 90%, I will send to US. That's a statement which we make to each of our children. Is it not? And we tell, your wife tells you that you better earn so much so that we can buy a flat in Colaba. That's the kind of a gun which she puts at me. So there is a vision with which we all walk. And why not as citizens we walk with one vision and one objective? Today, whatever with the government, I am not with the government, there is a statement called Make in India. That's a wonderful statement. But is it a vision statement? Or is it a policy statement? Or what is it about? It is a statement. That statement, if we believe that as citizens all of us need to achieve that statement, each state, each polity and each organization need to achieve that as a platform. But have you seen any government having a kind of a vision statement in its books? Have you ever seen anywhere? Be it a Kerala, be it a Delhi, be it any other country, any other state in the country? No, we have never seen that. So the point here is that, as Ramaswamy has rightly said it, we are the people of the change. You might be in organizations, you might be in government, you might be in judiciary. Wherever you be, why not we converge this into a kind of a statement like we have Mahatma Gandhi on the wall, wherever we sit in a government office, there is a Mahatma Gandhi sits there and there is a Prime Minister who sits there. Similarly, why not we make this as a statement? That's the whole objective. So if we want to make it as a kind of a success, let's first converge these thoughts into making it a kind of a vision statement. Then only we will be in a position to succeed as to where we are today. That's the first and foremost point. The second is that in relation to the regulatory, I mean, what are the organs which will facilitate the Make in India? I am speaking from a manufacturer's perspective. I am a manufacturer. I want to do something in India. I necessarily have to depend on somebody for a technology tie-up. Then only I can make the things the way in which India wants it to be done. So obviously I need a technology tie-up. But the kind of the regulatory interferences or regulatory constraints, let us put it as our regulatory facilitations, are we converging to the same thought? Today, most of the manufacturing firms, most of the people have got the technology tie-ups, they have the necessary capital resources, and the technology partners are willing to invest in India. But is there a right climate which we have fostered? You go to the east, the land of Bengal, we have one problem. We go to the south, the priorities are different. You go to Karnataka, the objectives are different. You go to Andhra, the objectives could be different. So like that, all of us are having different objectives, not in a position to really facilitate what we are all as citizens aspiring for. We are all aspiring to make it India. Because your trillions of dollars, your own foreign exchange is going out in terms of purchasing the ammunition, arms for the country. So that's something which we should not look at. So what we should look at is that the regulatory framework, be it insurance, be it telecom, be it defense, be it petroleum, whomsoever it be, they all need to converge to the thought and accordingly make the policies. Today the major disconnect as an industry which I am facing is that the act is something, the rules are different. The act intent is different, the rules content is different. When we try to say that, they say the bureaucrat interprets, this is what the act intends to do it, showing the rule. No, but that's not the case. The intent is very broad, that to do the things in India, but the content is altogether different. As you were saying that you need to get about 34 approvals or 18 approvals or 19 approvals. In Singapore, we can start the business in 1.5 days, we can close the business in 2.5 days. That's it. That be the ease. Obviously, any foreign partner who comes into India, he would look at that kind of a comfort or that kind of a merit to do the business in India. So the short point is that we need to converge our thoughts to see that this policy framework and the rules really foster the kind of a process which we are looking at. I just quote one practical example because I think that might excite each of you. L&T has built a kind of a shipyard, a floating docks and the latest technology in Kattupalli somewhere in deep south next to Chennai at a cost of about $1 billion, close to about 6,500 crores, with a hope that Government of India will place the orders of getting the aircraft carriers, the submarines and other frigates and other vessels built in India itself. No, but that's not what is happening. Still all the equipment is being sourced to the foreign vendors. It's all going out. So when the infrastructure is available in India, what prevents you from placing an order, if not an L&T, somebody else, I'm talking about not necessarily L&T. Whatever infrastructure is available in India, are we really utilizing it? I'm sure not. We are not utilizing the infrastructure because the policies come into the play. Another joke is the SEZ. When you look at the SEZ and the kind of the expectations we have about the SEZ, can anyone say with the confidence it has really achieved its objective except for the except for the IT space? Only the IT space has fulfilled the aspirations of the SEZ. But the rest of the manufacturing sectors which were expected to be brought into the SEZ and foster the growth for the economy have not really fulfilled. So again, the short point is that all our policies, all our objectives need to be coherent and be in sync with the vision statement, the so-called dramatic vision statement you and I as citizens have fostered in this country, and Mr. Modi is voicing as a concern as Make in India. That's the second point. The last, the bureaucracy. There are good and bad about every bureaucracy. In the previous session, I was here as well as the next room. Both the parliamentarians from the British domain, what they were talking about is that they don't get a fund for themselves. All they get is the kind of an influence, whatever fund they get that goes into the local body, and they can influence the local body to see that it is spent on the people. It's not that I have a priority and Jayashree has got a priority and Ramaswamy has got his own priority. Because I look at my problems in such a way that probably I may be prejudicial. But as a local body, you know where to invest in, whether it is in education or in industry or a kind of a public service. So accordingly you invest it. Here what is happening is the subjectivity angle is coming in such a big way. Even the bureaucracy is feeling it that as a matter of an issue. So they are not able to implement the policies of the government because they themselves are confused between a vision statement and a kind of a document that has been churned out. Both are inconsistent. So these are the little, what you call the orientation issues which we don't have it. Do we have the potential or not? We have the potential to become the leading country by 2017. But the time is too short. It's 2 years expectation. If you have to really do the kind of a crash course in 2 years, what kind of a stretch we need to have it? It's a big debate. Anyway, my other fellow panelists will obviously speak about it. Again, I'll come back to you with my practical illustrations. Thank you.
Thank you, Badri, for setting the tone. I'd like to hear the views from Jayashree. Jayashree, you have been championing the cause of compliance. And compliance is one area where any foreign investor has his own kind of a doubt when it comes to setting up business in India or doing business in India in any form. Or what needs to be done by the particular government of the day to improve the compliance structure.
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Ram. Thank you so much. It's wonderful to have an audience after lunch. And I see nobody sleeping, so that's a good part. Okay. I would just like to start and take from Badri the vision which he had mentioned. All the companies, many of the GCs are here. Everybody has a vision. But do you come back and check, have I ever worked on that vision? Has the vision been implemented? Yeah, here's the vision. Now let me ask you a very simple, all of you would be having a driving license, right? Most of you, maybe one or two don't have. How many of you have actually read the rules to have the driving license?
None.
All the laws, all the rules, right? Okay, one exception. That's great, we have an exception. Believe me, we know, oh, okay, there's a red light, there's this, there's a U-turn where it's written across, we can't. But do we know how to lane driving? In Delhi, lane driving, I would not talk of Bombay because Bombay is good at lane driving. But Delhi, lane driving, there's no lane driving. So do we know it ourselves? We don't. So how do you as a GC in a company would follow all the laws? Do you know what are the laws? You first do it, okay, business karne ke liye ek license chahiye, that's it. So my thought process here is, first of all, let us clean up. I'm only giving you how preventive you could be. Of course, the laws are, some of the laws are, 1960, 1956. I think the oldest one was 1848, if I'm not mistaken. 1848, there are laws. I agree all that. That is all changing as time goes by. So, like a very simple, common example I'm giving. Earlier, we used to get our certificates, attested by guested officers, and today you can certify. So, the change is happening. I would only give you a process which will help every organization to go ahead and comply with the rules. My first, I will take just 2 minutes so that, there's a long panel here to talk about other expert things. There are 4 different things in any organization which has to see to do business, ease of doing business. If you understand these 4 methods, you will never fall short of this. First is, there is a trade license or a license or an intimation, something to do business. One of this, either an intimation to the government or to take a license. One of them, that would be it. Now, government has given you a license. How does government see that you are using the license the right method? To give you an example, manufacturing. You have been given, you can only produce 500 kilos per day. How does the government monitor that you have producing 500 kilos and not 600 kilos at the same license? So that is maintenance of that license. So what is maintenance? You need to file returns, or you need to do some kind of a paper which you need to give to the government. That's the maintenance. The third part is a payment, a small payment or a one-time payment, like in taxes you have TDS which needs to be paid on a regular basis, or when you take a shop and establishment license, it's a one-time payment, I guess. 3 things. Does everybody agree these 3 things happens? And does everything come under these 3 baskets? The 4th one, renewal. Some things don't have renewal, some things has renewal. If we really work on these 4 areas, believe me, we would be compliant. And I remember when I started talking about compliance in the year 2000, people used to laugh at me. And today I have helped around a good number of at least top 500 companies how to run their compliance programs. Of course, then the IT comes. You can have an IT setup. You can have every department going through the compliance. You can set the laws. You can set the privacy laws, which was being talked earlier in the earlier sessions. You can have the IT laws. You can have the manufacturing laws, each state laws, all that. But do you have the process in place? Once you have the process in place, I think your business is set. And the process with the, I would like, suddenly an example has come to my mind. This compliance process in most of the manufacturing companies go through. And there was one organization which I remember, helping them. And they said, none of these guys are really complying. They find it lazy, acha theek hai, kar diya, acha kar denge. So what did they do? This is a Japanese firm. And what did they do? They added 15% to the KRAs. So once that 15% was added to the KRAs, and you go next month, the compliance was 100%. It was done, and with the checks and balances in place. So therefore, if you really go by process method, I can go on and on and on, and Ram would agree, for at least the whole day, 8 hours, I can talk about compliance. But at least let me give you a snapshot, and then I can take questions, maybe during the tea. Yeah, thank you.
This session, we'll have a lot of time for question and answers. We just want to take the thought process forward. I cut across and I come to Dr. Akhil Prasad. Dr. Akhil Prasad needs no introduction. Thank you, sir, for gracing the occasion once again. And he is the head of legal of Boeing in India. And sir, the recent government announcement about aviation sector, and especially in defense, about opening up, is a very good sign. And it's going to throw up a lot of opportunities, state-of-art craft, of fighter jets and many others. So what's your take? How do you think it's going to bring about a kind of a revolution? Is it a starting step? Do you think it's here for stay? What's your thoughts?
Thank you, Mr. Ramaswamy, and thanks for INBA for giving me this opportunity to present my thoughts before you. I would say that Make in India, the biggest beneficiary seems to be the defense sector, because India and obviously the oil and gas sector, because India has a huge dependency on imports, and Make in India, I think the defense sector probably will be the most biggest beneficiary in terms of if products are being manufactured in India. And what we have seen is, in terms of the opening up, we have seen some traction, because previously the FDI regulations restricted participation to about 26%, which has now been opened up to 49%. We are seeing a lot of interest in terms of foreign companies, setting up their operations in India. Previously, whenever we used to hear about defense procurement, we used to hear about Russian companies or Israeli companies. But now we have very serious players in terms of Boeing, in terms of Airbus, Lockheed Martin, and almost all Honeywell, all big players, they are setting up their shops in India. They want to manufacture in India. From our point of view also, Boeing has just announced a joint venture with Tata's. So we are also looking up in terms of joint manufacturing, setting up a facility to manufacture certain defense product parts and components which we will manufacture in India along with Tata's. This is all good story. You know, this is all very positive, extremely positive. And I think the intention of the Prime Minister is definitely very, very positive. What we are also looking at in terms of an industry is in terms of more clarity on, so our guiding principle is a defense procurement policy, which we call as a DPP. So DPP has a lot of anomalies till 2013. And every 2 years, you know, since 2006 at least, when Boeing has started participating in defense supply, we have seen different iterations of the DPP. Every 2 years there is an iteration for the better. But there are huge gaps in terms of decision making at the ministry level. So when it's not only Boeing I'm talking about, and these are only my personal views, not the opinion of the company that I represent. But in my personal view, what I have seen, and when we talk to our competitors and other players in the industry, is there is a huge decision paralysis still. So in terms of whenever you do a big contract with the government of India, which is 300 crore plus, there are offset requirements. 30% of whatever we supply, we have to invest in country, which is what Make in India is about, that we have to invest 30% of that contract supply in India. To get those offset credits is a Herculean task. There is no decision making. So the DPP lays out certain documents which you have to submit with the Ministry of Defense, basis which they are supposed to give you credit. But this is all what the policy says. When you go a step ahead and you file your documents with the MOD, you never get a credit. It's extremely, extremely difficult. And that is what the industry's problem is, that if you are investing 300 crore plus in India, we have a right to claim 30% offset credits. Please take a decision faster. Please have more clarity. For example, I can give you an example. I saw that DPP. It says that when you are providing parts and components for defense products, you have to pack it in a yellow box. And when we negotiate with the government, why should we have a yellow box? Because when there is a consignment of origin from US, when it is come to India, it is subject to the packaging requirements of that particular country. I can't change the package internationally and pack it all boxes in yellow. So that, because it is mentioned in the DPP in the model contract, we should have some flexibility in terms of contract which is more suited for international players, international norms. And believe me, the contract for supply is the same for a small defense component and an aircraft. The only thing which they can change is you can call your goods as aircraft, you can call your goods as parts and components, but the other agreement will remain the same. There is no flexibility. So when we talk about Make in India, it is definitely a leap forward, a very good intention, but that execution is what we will need to see. And you know, I don't agree with the concept of leap to 2017. You know, why should we do things in a haste and make mistakes rather than, you know, step in a way so that we lay a very strong foundation. And we do need a very strong foundation if we have to make in India a success. So my initial thoughts, we can always deliberate, you know, when other people also have a chance to express their views.
Sorry, wanted to get those sound. I think I'm not able to do the compliance part there. Anyhow, having said that, thank you, Akhil. And may I now switch over to Anand. Anand, you are in the services sector, which is a very important skill sector. And what we talk about, innovate, and bring about a skill set in the country. Make India the next Silicon Valley, many of such things. So what are your thoughts? What needs to be done? You have an abundant workforce coming in by the year 2025. You're going to have this kind of a skill set. I was just discussing with our panel today that yesterday the top CEOs selected 28 innovators And many of them happen to be from tier 2 cities. And they came up with ideas. In the last 6 months, you can see the kind of innovation which has happened. So it's not that things are not happening. So Anand, your viewpoint on what needs to be done, more focus?
Sure. So, so the broader story here actually is why is it important? Services, skill sets, hiring. The fundamental reason is because our population is 1.2 billion, right? And the so-called demographic dividend or demographic nightmare is a story that's going to play out literally within the next 10 years, right? Now, how does this relate to, say, a company like Cognizant at a micro level? We're one of India's largest hirers. We've hired around 200,000 people. We've done more real estate than real estate companies in terms of, infrastructure, fit out, and all of that. Now, what is the single biggest shock here is the quality of available talent actually fluctuates wildly. And we're so used to the media image of, skilled workforce, highly qualified. And since this is a closed group and a frank discussion, I'd like to bring some insight, what you don't normally read in the papers and what you're not already aware of in public domain sources. You'll be shocked at the number of fake resumes. You'll be shocked at the scale of fake university degrees. You'll be shocked at people from legitimate universities with the skill sets not capable of being gainfully employed, right? So the level of systemic reform that is there is Herculean, all right? And we have to bell that cat. We have to bell that cat, and we have to bell that cat within 10 years, because all these issues, whether you're talking about separatism in Kashmir or Naxalite movements, all of this you can tie it back to the youth not being gainfully employed, and you'll have a disproportionate security threat. So when you discuss with companies, because I'm sure we have a lot of risk professionals in the room, you'll be shocked nowadays, so much of your discussion on hiring, deployment of workforce, is also into business continuity and risk mitigation. One political leader is arrested, that's it. You're factoring in immediately to not have business in that state. Why? Because that many people are coming out in the streets. Any small, one actor is making some statement, you're having streets being blocked. The people's level and capability for agitation is so high. The symptom and the reason for that is because of the high ambition. That high ambition is actually tied to these people who have actually worked with very meager resources. They've gone to colleges and got a degree, and the available jobs is a dramatic mismatch. And why is that? I wanted to address that issue also. When the IT sector first started, the jobs was, a starting salary was 10,000 rupees. It was a high aspirational salary in the year 2000. It was a salary in which you could buy a house, you could even buy a vehicle at 10,000 rupees. Your same starting salary now is around 50,000 to 1 lakh. It's anywhere between 6 lakhs to 12 lakhs per annum starter salaries. And you still can't buy your house. If you're living in a Mumbai, Delhi, Chennai, you can't buy a house with 12 lakhs. So you're having this much of ambition, pressure, drive, education with very scarce opportunities. It's a very heady cocktail that we're in. So when you say Modi's vision of Make in India, there's also the other component. In fact, today it's a larger component. Our agricultural and manufacturing still doesn't come up to 50%. It's our services sector which is still driving. So along with Make in India, our mind should be for skill in India and hire and develop in India. And these pieces are so important, not just from an economic perspective, but also from a national security perspective. And that's how we need to think. So what is Cognizant's agenda in all of this? So I'll give you the cynical thing, right? Modi makes a very great presentation. You have investors, from other countries. So great. So what's changed? Do we get tax breaks? Are special zones being identified? We all know none of that has happened, right? So this is what is the story. Whether the government's Make in India plan succeeds or not, Make in India will succeed, all right? And this is the elephant in the room. The question is, are we going to grow at 5% a year, or are we going to grow at 8 to 10% a year? That is the balance we got to strike. And in all of this chaos, there is opportunity, right? This is the last point I'll make. We talk about innovation. The tragedy is there's no innovation even in our startup scene. We're so proud of our unicorn startups. They're taxi cab aggregators, they're retailers. Is it a competitive business? Is it a financially viable business? Absolutely. Here behind the curtains, there are no patents. Any of that business model can be replicated. Anybody can start a taxi cab aggregator. It's a question of market share. Anybody can go into an online retail space. So the level of innovation is something we have to introspect, because this is my last one sentence takeaway to all you guys. All our great pharma companies unfortunately specialized in generics. When was the last path-breaking, life-saving cancer, dengue? Why are our tropical diseases? No chikungunya cure. Why no chikungunya in US? All right. So our pharma companies, which are our titans, unfortunately, is too generics focused. Our titans in the IT space, services, will go. Why do we use Windows? Why do we use Apple? All the product, intellectual, innovative space is not there in India. We're having profitable companies, employment generating companies, good infrastructure based companies, but we have not unlocked the innovation. And that's the takeaway. While we skill, while we hire, unlock the innovation in the Indian population, and that's when you'll have the growth story.
Thanks, Anand. I'll just like to add on to this. What Mr. Modi seems to have done is, imagine that this room is like a river, a static river. He has thrown a pebble inside. It's created a small ripple. What he wants is we create ripple effects. That is exactly what has happened across the world. People have started looking at India. Oh, there is a country like India. There is an opportunity. Let's go. At least he has made that beginning. It's for all of us to take it forward. Having said that, I'd like to come back to you, and you also are in the same American Express, Anupam. So share with us your thoughts, and then I'll move on to Mr. Mukesh Tyagi.
Yeah, so I would just like to, add to what Anand said, and it is very right. I mean, we talk about Make in India and, Prime Minister vision as such, but tell me, we sign contracts, all of us sign contracts on a daily basis. We bluff a lot. We don't say yes or no, but we bluff a lot. And that happens when there is an internal audit or maybe a third-party audit. Why? Because our due diligence is not in place. You have never taken the time to see what your internal gaps are. And, to make this a success, the best thing is, you talk about the skill set. Where is that skill set going to come? You should have those colleges which has those, kind of data level to make the young generation at a level. I mean, I was talking with Anand over a short period of time before this panel. He said that he went to IIT Kharagpur, and the amount of talent he saw in the student was amazing. I mean, people were so talented, but just to take a leap on that.
For a second, I thought you were going to give a bluffing example, and I was like, good Lord, man. But
yeah. So to just add to that, I mean, the kind of due diligence to have in place, obviously you have all the acts to pass, the GST or whatever the labor reforms, and then you have the political pressure as well. But, when we talk about Prime Minister, the Prime Minister can, show you the door, but he can't give you the eyes. It's the eyes of the whole nation which needs to stand up. Obviously, Make in India would be a success, but you need to put all the gaps in place. And to do that, you should have the compliance in place, the due diligence in place, and the proper people in place. You say that to start a company or to develop a department, you should have first the people, then you should have the process, and then the technology. Thank you.
Thank you, Anupam. Now I come back to Mr. Mukesh Tyagi. He needs no introduction, having been the ex-CEO of Enron, SR, Reliance Energy, and also acted in a few Bollywood movies. I envy you, sir. Having said that, sir, there is a lot of connect also. Bollywood had transcended barriers. India is known for Bollywood.
Yeah, I'm looking for Make in India, Hollywood coming to India as a matter of fact.
Hollywood coming to India.
So
what are your views, sir? How do you feel we can energize it?
Thank you so much. I think all the panelists have exhausted most of the points I wanted to say, but I just want to philosophize the whole discussion of Make in India. I remember in '93 the reforms began when Narasimha Rao became the Prime Minister and Manmohan Singh was brought as a Finance Minister. There was a lot of resistance to reforms, and there was a lot of pessimism that in India the reform is very difficult to bring in. I also remember there was a strike by bankers when they didn't want introduction of computers in their systems. They said the typewriters is a source of generating employment, and therefore typewriters should continue. And a lot of time the banks were closed because people were not willing to transition from typewriting to the computing. So there is a inertia in the mindset of the people, and I'll give you a very live example. As a matter, when I was in Enron, we had to do project financing, non-recourse based, and we'll have to go through a large number of permits, as she mentioned about the compliance. I went to the finance secretary. We were trying to bring LNG. We wanted to set up an LNG plant on the western coast of India, and LNG was first time brought in India. So I went and told the finance secretary that, look, we are the first one to set up LNG plants in India, and I give you the presentation. I had a few Americans who had come with a very complex presentation on cryogenic technology and LNG and all. The finance secretary told me, don't have to educate me. There are plenty of plants there in India. This is not the first time. You don't dodge me. Leave your file here and I'll get back to you. After some time, when the file came, what was mentioned instead of LNG, it was mentioned LPG. So the finance secretary's awareness about LNG was so minuscule, and he was taking a decision. And ironically, Economic Times reported next day with the LPG cylinder that LPG approval given to Enron. So, you know, this kind of ignorance and the resistance and arrogance, I think, is one of the serious bottlenecks which we are facing in the bureaucratic mind, the political mindsets. Then the investigating agencies, enforcement agencies, the moment you take one decision this way or that way, like for example, my friend was talking about the defense procurement system. The moment you tweak the rules, there has been a case of Augusta Westland where the height of the was reduced, and there have been a lot of investigating agencies talking about the kickbacks. Now, basically the principle is that capital is looking for ROI. Where do I get the maximum ROI? And whether it's India, Bangladesh, Pakistan, China, I think the investor is looking for. So the momentum of Make in India is so humongous in nature, and India offers such a huge market. I think by sheer strength of the market, Make in India is going to be extremely successful, because I feel the investors would alter the rules and regulations. Like for example, you want a plane to land, you need to have airstrip for that. But right now my feeling is the airstrip is not ready. You have already launched the plane in the air, and it will wait till the landing strip is ready. So I think there is a huge disconnect between our vision. It's a great vision. It's a mega vision. India needs, I think, Make in India. We have very, very knowledgeable resources in India. We have disparities, but when it is going to happen, what is the area? I think we can't restrict it in a couple of years or 3 years' time. It's a long-term plan. I think, having said that, I'm very, very hopeful Make in India is going to be a great success, but it will take a little longer time.
Sir, I'll take a cue out of Bollywood. I can't refrain myself from asking. My wish list is like, you know, Switzerland wooed Yash Chopra that come and, you know, shoot in my picturesque locations. Mr. Modi will create at every place in India, Switzerland, where all foreign companies will come and they will actually manufacture and reap the benefits.
Absolutely.
Having said that, Dr. Gemawat, last but not the least, your views, sir, having been in the industry for so many years. Incidentally, I hold Dr. Gemawat in very, very high respects. I took over from him. I still remember the words given to me, Ram, you are going to come into shoes which are very difficult to fill. I don't know whether I filled it, but I tried my level best. Thank you very much for gracing the occasion, sir.
Thank you, Ram, for all the kind words. I think Make in India undoubtedly is a philosophical topic right now to me. If I want to react on this, as a vision, undoubtedly it's a great vision. I think that after independence, this is one vision which is right now connecting people. So there is no doubt about it. Would we be successful? Perhaps answer is yes, for the simple reason that world cannot ignore a billion population. And to the extent we have a billion population, a young population, will keep on having transactions in this territory. Until we are having transactions, I think the economy would be growing. Now, whether we have the challenges ahead, answer is number of challenges. And if I can share some of the challenges that Make in India, you know, it sounds very good, but then are we really producing entrepreneurs? This is one basic question, because Make in India cannot be successful unless we produce entrepreneurs. Of late, I have seen, for the last couple of years or so, I have seen entrepreneurs getting, produced in academic institutions in terms of, but then that is mainly in the services sector. You might be seeing the e-commerce or the retail or the aggregators business. Most of the young graduates today, they are looking for, entrepreneurship, but then that is mainly in the services sector. But then to what extent we are producing entrepreneurs in the manufacturing sector, perhaps answer is an absolute question mark. Today, we have nearly 15 lakh registered entities in micro and small and medium enterprises segment. Now, are we really concerned about that? Are these entities are breeding? Are we promoting them? Unless we promote these kind of entities and then unregistered entities, which are nearly 2 crores of unregistered entities. Now, right now, there is no manufacturing processes going on. There is manufacturing is at a, recessionary kind of situation. But then, still, are we really concerned about those entities? Have we, are we incentivizing them? Perhaps answer is a big question mark. We are having a logo or the, vision kind of a statement, Make in India. But then I think some of the initiatives which are required to be taken to motivate these MSME sector, I think that is the requirement of the day. And I think that would create a momentum. If we promote them, if we motivate them, that would create momentum in terms of India becoming a manufacturing hub. I would also like to give you example, and some of the fellow speakers talked about skill set. Now, skill set is a basic issue, and I was just a few days back, I was having a discussion with a senior government official who was earlier heading the education department or the Ministry of, Education Ministry. He told me, and he gave me a few examples. He says, we advertised for 100 positions of teachers' position, we conducted a test. There were 44,000 applications, and the test was on a very basic questions. But then, and the pass percentage was also very limited, just 40%. But still, out of 44,000 people, only 100 applications were selected, or 100 applicants, passed. Now, this is the sorry state of affairs. For the teaching kind of, positions, we are not getting that kind of a skill set. He gave me another example, that people come to me for various kind of jobs, etc., like stenographers or, some kind of these, clerical kind of positions. And I ask them a basic standard question. And 90% of the people fail. I asked him, what is that question? He says, I asked them, what is 1 by 2 plus 2 by 4? Can you answer? And he says that 90% of the people fail in this. He says that I advertised positions for SDOs and, assistant engineer kind of positions, which is a gazetted position. And he says that, normally in the government system, you keep on getting recommendations, etc. And people come for interviews. And I ask them very basic questions. And these people who come for the interviews, they are 2 years senior, 2 years pass out from the engineering colleges, etc. And I ask them a basic question and always ask the same question, that what were your subjects in the 7th semester? How many subjects were there? They will say 6 subjects or 7 subjects. And I ask them the next question, can you name these subjects? Most of the people fail in that. Now, if this is the kind of students or professionals we are producing, I see a great challenge in terms of India becoming a manufacturing hub. So I think, very briefly, I just wanted to share these things. I think a lot of scope is there. India as a market, I think a great potential. 1 billion customers, nobody can ignore. The fact remains that whether regulatory mechanism or ease of doing business or not, the fact remains all multinationals, the world market cannot ignore this, a billion market population kind of billion market. Nobody can ignore this. Despite of all systemic failures, we will keep on attracting investments, there is no doubt about it. But then, still, are we thinking ourselves to be the leaders of the world in the manufacturing? Perhaps answer would be a big question mark. With these few words, I think, thank you very much. I enjoyed this. Yeah.
Thank you, Doctor. I'd like to throw it open to the audience, but before doing that, I'll just take 30 seconds. It's a concept of how you look at things. That famous adage, sir, give me a second. 30 seconds, I'll finish. Africa, a footwear manufacturer goes, he says no market, bare feet. Another one, which is history now, which is Nike, goes excellent market, one pair of shoes. India has a tremendous opportunity in terms of creating the market. It's how we look at it, how we project it, how we promote it at all respects. And each one of us has to do that. Throw open the audience. Please be brief in your questions. We have 5 minutes left. Please be brief, sir. Straight to the question, sir.
Sir, to make in India, there is a need of the power. No manufacturing can be successful. Nothing can be successful. We have to ensure first that the power is available with us. And the power can be only available through solar system. Because we have no otherwise system. Though initially that this is the only topic. If we want to make India, we must see that there is a supply of solar system, so that all the manufacturing systems should come and everybody should be there, and we will be able to create the jobs also in thousands and thousands, and that is my
Sir, point taken. Basically, it's a question of getting electricity. As you know, already it's on the World Bank Index, on one of the 10 parameters. India is already working on it.
India is shifting its thrust from fossilized to non-fossilized power, which includes solar power. Now, there have been some regulatory correction which have been done. The technology is changing. It was very high capital cost, and the regulatory returns were lower. So there was not much advancement. But now things are getting better. On wind side, we have a very nice wind micro siting done. So wind is also going to grow. The nuclear power, which is again going to be a major thrust of this government. So you will see to it that there is a complete paradigm shift from fossilized, from coal, gas, oil, to a renewable side.
Yeah, next question, please. Just one more question after this. I can already see Kishan with his panel already here.
What's your view on Indian offset partner like?
Kavita.
Okay, am I audible now? So I want to know your views on Indian offset partners, for defense, the eligibility. Is this not discouraging foreign companies with good technology and other things, to be a part of, to be a Indian offset partner?
So, so as per the DPP, I think it is very clear that it has to be an Indian enterprise. An Indian enterprise, to me, is a subsidiary of a foreign company. But when you go and submit your proposals to the ministry, though it's not written anywhere in the DPP, they discourage Indian subsidiaries of foreign companies. So there needs to be a push for in the new DPP, and people have been saying that there should be no distinction between Indian company versus a foreign company, and if people are willing to invest, then why not they should be treated as an Indian offset partner. So we are lobbying on that. Not lobbying, we have with folded hands requested.
Last question, okay, to the student.
I have a question. Being a youth myself, you said that the youth is not coming up much in the manufacturing sector. They're more going towards the service sector. One of the reasons I feel that they get a sense of security there. In the manufacturing sector, I admit and appreciate the fact that there might be lots of investors coming in India. But do you feel there are any statutory or policies which gives the youth a sense of security, or how does that investment will reach to the youth so that they can utilize it in the form of their capital investment? Because at the end of the day, we coming up and standing out in the professional world cannot put everything from our own pockets. And there are a lot of things which, being the youth, we do not know how to strategize. So is there any sense of protection given by the statutory policies or anything, sir?
See, the law is very much there, and security is in our hands, how to make it safe. It's not about a service industry versus a manufacturing industry. I have worked in the services industry in the past. I was the General Counsel for Fidelity in India. We ensured all our cabs are GPS enabled, but it does not prevent a manufacturing company to adopt the similar model in terms of ensuring safe transportation of women employees. For example, the prevention of sexual harassment committees, it is not service sector based. Every company in India needs to have a committee to prevent sexual harassment at workplace. And workplace is not your office. Workplace is everywhere you go for in discharge of your duties, whether it's in your office or outside. So for all lawyers who are in this room, for all general counsel in this room, the onus on safety is on our shoulders. And it is our duty, whether it's a service sector or a manufacturing sector, to ensure that the workforce is safe and secure.
So my question is that the youth is not ready to take up the challenge to come into the manufacturing sector, because there are lots of challenges.
Isha, one question, please. We'll take it off.
Sorry.
Thank you. Paucity of time. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Sorry to cut, but deeply bow in reverence to my august panel and to the wonderful audience out here. You all deserve a round of applause. And may I request Alex Heck? Oliver.
Yeah,
My apologies. Oliver to please come, and Oliver Alexander. And also Kishan, yourself also please, to do the honors for the esteemed guests. Can we not be we shouldn't be stingy in our round of applause. Thank you, Dr. Akhil. Oh, okay.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
To Jayashree, thank you so much. And Oliver to Badrinath.
We're going to have a good relationship with
Yeah.
you.
And as an umpire,